I buy locally made furniture. We impact on the livelihoods of our brothers and sisters. For orders, visit our showroom at Uni Africa House, Koinange Lane off Koinange Street. Jenga Kenya, tupate ajira.
Good afternoon. It is the first day of February 2022. A very warm welcome to KBC Channel 1. Thank you for choosing us. We do have a comprehensive bulletin that we have prepared for you. I am Nisi Imano and I'm joined by Susan Thuku as our sign language interpreter for this bulletin. Right, and we begin in Parliament, where Parliament reconvenes this afternoon to consider and approve the list of 7 members of the crucial House Business Committee after it was shut down last week. The MPs want the Business Committee reconstituted. Now, with no changes having been made on the list, lobbying is underway to ensure the MPs endorse the list and give the August House a lifeline.
A week after a section of lawmakers scuttled the bid to pass the list of members to the House Business Committee, MPs are set to consider and pass the membership to the committee without making any changes this afternoon. Leader of Majority Amos Kemunya has successfully lobbied the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi to reconvene the House to rescind its decision to reject the formation of the crucial committee that decides the business to be transacted. The House was forced to adjourn its Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday sessions last week after MPs allied to Deputy President shot down a motion that was meant to reconstitute the committee upon the commencement of Parliament's 6th session.
Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of counter opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it.
Those proposed to sit in the committee are Turkana Women Rep Joyce Emaniko, Kitutu Masaba MP Shadrack John Mose, Meru Woman Representative Kawira Mwangaza, Fafi Member of Parliament Abdi Karim Osman, Kitui Central MP Makali Mulu, Mombasa Women Representative Mishi Mboko, and nominated MP Godfrey Osotsi. For Lunchtime News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
All right, and just an update on that story on Parliament reconvening. We want to take you there to just listen in on the ongoings at the moment.
Summary. In terms of recurrent, I won't go to the baseline. We had required 20 billion plus. We were given 10 billion, so we were funded up to 48.36%. In terms of development, we've been funded up to 25%. So the global picture is there, honorable members. The next table would be now drilling down to the programs, but I think you are just interested in that global figure. So, and then table 3, we have just summarized what we feel are the...
And unless there are any issues that you would want to pick specifically from any table,
yeah,
you can bring it out.
What item, my team would you like us to...
If they are okay, is fine.
Yeah, the figures I think are okay.
All right.
Okay, so we are looking at a deficit of what we see like 12 billion, but we are also sensitive, honorable members, of what the country is going through. This year, we, according to our collective bargaining, there are so many allowances which were supposed to be adjusted according to the collective bargaining with the union. But when we contacted SRC, they will not allow, I mean, even the country itself. So we are sensitive. We are sensitive to the physical constraint that the country is facing. And this is against growing requirements for resources. We are sensitive that we had the COVID matters. We are sensitive that there are areas of this country with drought. And we are also sensitive that this is an election year. But we would like just a special emphasis on the Huduma program. If nothing else, the Huduma program. Because then we are talking about our constituents, we are talking about our citizens, and it's good to bring services closer and closer to them. So that's the only thing I would like to highlight, honorable members. But we have detailed where we feel there's a gap, the amount of gap we feel there is, and the justification why we feel we need.
All right, live pictures there of Parliament where the PS for Public Service, Mary Kimonye, is currently speaking. We will give you an update on that in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, Kenya and the United Kingdom have partnered to sensitize the youth on the need to shun violent extremism. Through the Ajira and White Box programs, the two governments hope to lure young Kenyans away from radicalization, which has contributed immensely to the growth of homegrown terrorism in the country. The two countries have been engaging in joint programs, with some aimed at empowering young Kenyans to venture into businesses.
Kitu kingine ambacho ningependa kuadd pia,
the programs that we have, and I'd like to encourage fellow youth here. These programs are for all the youth in the country, and they're accessible. This initiative is actually aimed at reaching out to youth who are maybe marginalized, who may not have access to some of the opportunities available due to some various challenges that they face. I was glad to join them today, coming from government, to hear, to just hear what are their challenges, how can we better reach out to them. And I was glad to tell them about the programs that we have in place. We do have the Ajira digital program, which is availed through constituency innovation hubs, or what we call Ajira youth empowerment centers, that are set up all across the country.
The UK has been supporting this program for the last 3 years to help provide mentorship for young people who have been disadvantaged, who've maybe had some very tough experiences in the early years of their life, had often missed out on educational opportunities, and are the kind of young people who don't get opportunities in life. And so we're trying to help them with mentorship to try and steer a better path, to ensure that they don't join gangs or go off the rails, but actually find some opportunities and discover how they can start their own businesses or get real employment, and really bring all their talent, creativity and innovation and their sort of passion to bear for the rest of Kenyan society.
Away from that, Water, Sanitation and Irrigation Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has scoffed at a section of leaders who are out to discredit government projects at the expense of politics. Speaking while commissioning Mawingo and Githima boreholes and irrigation projects in Kipipiri constituency, the CS claimed that some politicians were using the government projects as political tools ahead of the August general election.
Water CS, who was accompanied by National Assembly Leader of Majority Amos Kimunya, called on Kenyans to ensure they elect leaders who will help push the development growth to the next level.
Ushapiga kura, uza sera. Hawa wananchi si wajinga, watasikiza. Na kama uko na maono na maana na matusi umeshukisha chini, watakupatia kama wanafikiri ni wewe utawafikisha pale. Lakini ni wasihi nyinyi, yule mwenye ako na maono ya kupeleka kazi ambao Rais Mheshimiwa Kenyatta amepeleka vizuri ya kimaendeleo, huyo ndio mtu tutasimama na yeye.
She underscored the need for peace and development, noting that Kenyans were not ready to experience troubled times associated with elections. National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya said the water projects are meant to help local communities boost their livelihoods.
Water Act 2016 inanipatia hiyo nafasi na fursa ya kupatia miradi kwa kamati, kama kamati imeundika vizuri, na vile vile ile miradi mikubwa tunakabidhi ama tunapeana, tushakamilisha, tunapeana kwa macounties pahali hizi miradi ziko.
We now cross over to Machakos, where 2 chief executive officers in the county have been grilled over claims of grafts. Health and Emergency Services Chief Executive Officer Dr. Ancient Kituku and his counterpart of Finance and Revenue Collection, Francis Maliti, appeared before the Oversight Committee chaired by Speaker Florence Mwangangi for interrogation over alleged mismanagement and squandering of public funds.
The probing follows a public outcry in the recent past over lack of drugs at medical facilities in the county, which was brought to the attention of the County Assembly, igniting the summoning of the 2.
We should now summon the CC Finance and the Chief Executive, and the Chief Officer Finance.
Accompanied with their chief officers, Dr. Ancient Kituku and Francis Maliti found themselves at the receiving end when MCS sought to know why there was system failure in acquisition of drugs.
What I've been told, I may be wrong. I'm not a finance person, but what I want to clarify is the Department of Health, unless my good friends, chief officers are not getting me well, there is no money they can get for this.
Finance CEC Francis Maliti defended himself, saying the problem was not at his office but was caused by the strain in the budget.
There would be such a high demand for drugs in the first quarter and second quarter of the year.
For Lunchtime News, I'm Zainab Said.
And a section of youth drawn from Bungoma and Busia counties want the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to ease voter transfer exercise. They claim the regulations put in place in seeking transfers are partly to blame for the low turnout of youth in the ongoing exercise.
IEBC concludes the second and final phase of enhanced voter registration. Thousands of youth from Bungoma and Busia counties are likely to miss out due to voter transfer restrictions.
Wakati unatembea unapata mtu aliandikishia mbali, akienda pale kubadilisha hiyo kura ili aweze kupigia hapo penye anataka, wanamwambia enda paka kwa sub county office. Sub county office unapata mtu labda analipa shilingi 100, 200, kwenda na kurudi itamgharimu shilingi 500.
Speaking in Busia after an engagement forum, the youth called on the commission to ease voter transfer exercise to deal with the low turnout of youth in the ongoing process.
IEBC ingekuwa na mwelekeo iweze kutengeneza hapo penye watu wanaregister kura, waweze kuwa na kiti hapo pia ya kubadilisha kura. Wasiambie watu atienda paka kwa sub county office ili hali watu hawana pesa.
We are moving and creating civic education to our youth. And I've been telling my groups in Busia County that our direction, our major purpose in DAP is to risk the country, because the country is arrested, back to its citizens.
Tunataka tuwajibike kwamba ili kwamba wakipita kura, sisi vijana pia tuchukue majukumu, tuwe viongozi mahali pale na tupate kazi katika county governments na national governments. Tusiwe tukitumika tu vile.
In Kisii County, a section of aspirants have petitioned IEBC to use the ongoing voter registration drive to enhance civic and voter education among the electorate.
Ni lazima waelewe wanaenda kuvote, what they are going to do, waelewe vile wanaenda kuvote. In other words, to improve your quality ya voter. When anaenda kuvote akielewa anataka nini. Otherwise wakiingizwa hivyo without civic education, wataenda tu wa mark tu, at the end of the day wanaharibu.
Speaking in Kisii, the leaders urged the youth to register to vote for their desired leaders in the forthcoming polls.
And we've got 45 elected MCS in this county who are also working very, very hard to see to it that we have not just the voter, the ID and voter registration done properly and fast, but also that eventually the voter turnout becomes the highest in the country.
Ben Chumba, Lunchtime News.
In Kitui County, a section of residents in Inyanzai area of Ngomeni Ward in Mwingi North have fled homes following the invasion of elephants. The locals claim over 20 elephants invaded the area a month ago from Kora Game Reserve that neighbors the area and destroyed property of unknown value.
Musyoki Mburu's family has been forced to flee their home and camped in a nearby shopping center for safety. Musyoki, 73 years, says out of the 20 jumbos that invaded the area, only 9 have left. He said the animals are posing a threat to their lives as they are very wild.
Tumesumbuliwa na mandovu hapa sana. Alikuwa anakulanga majamba yetu kabisa. Watu wengine wakahamishwa na hiyo mandovu. Na sasa hiyo tunataka serikali tusaidie, hiyo mandovu imetusumbua sana. Kwa vile watu wengine hawana chakula saa hizi, tunakuwa na njaa kwa vile ajili ya hiyo mandovu.
The elephants have destroyed farm produce such as green grams, sorghum, millet and maize, among other crops.
Shinda yenye tuko naye ni ndovu. Ndovu zimepamia mashamba yetu, zimekula kila kitu. Tulipanda kwa shinda, hatukuwa na mbengu, tulikuwa tunapanda ile mbengu yenye tunaona.
Mulyungi Kilonzo, another local, says school-going children are at risk from the marauding jumbos.
Serikali yetu tunaomba ikuje tutenganishe na ndovu. Juu watu wamehama, saizi ng'ombe zinachapa usiku, watu wanalala msituni. Na hiyo msitu iko na nyoka, iko na kila kitu.
Ngomeni MCA Eliud Mutati urged Kenya Wildlife Service officers to act quickly to avoid cases of human-wildlife conflict.
Ningeuliza na niko na kilio sana na niko na sikitiko kana kwamba muda ulipita na akipanda ndovu sasa zinakula, hatujui sasa hiyo ni mwelekeo gani watu sasa wanaelekea. Manake hizi machamba zikiisha na tayari zini kama zimeisha. Na saa hii nimeamua siku ya leo nije nijionee mwenyewe, tukae na wao ndio nijionee hizo ndovu vile wanaingianga kwa chamba.
Nikiripotia Kurunzi Mashinani.
Hundreds of Morans from Kajiado County say they have turned a new leaf and will henceforth advocate for the adoption of progressive cultural practices. The Morans, who have also embraced Christianity, pledged to shun early marriages.
In a unique church at Mailitisa town near Namanga that used to be a traditional manyata where rituals used to be carried out, now stands a modern Baptist church. Instead of going to a manyata, they congregate here once every year.
Kulikuwa na manyata hapa ya nyumba zaidi ya 49. Na hiyo si miaka mingi. Na hiyo wakati watu walikuwa wanapenda utamaduni sana. Na hiyo utamaduni hawakuwa wanahusisha na mambo ya Mungu ama mambo ya kikanisa.
The church has transformed into a formal education center with a modern library where locals attend education classes.
Mpaka saa hii ukiona hii tukifaa hivi kimataduni, sio kitu ingine na tukumbuki zile imepita. Tuko chonjo kwenda mbele kusifu Mungu kwa mafasi yote.
The clergy says the move aims to enlighten the community on global civilization and still preserve the culture.
Sisi tukapanda kanisa hapa ili tubadilishe na tulete Mungu mahali hapa.
Morans say they have accepted to shun retrogressive cultures such as early marriage and female genital mutilation. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
A standard 7 pupil in Bamburi, Mombasa County, is fighting for his life in a hospital following an assault at his school that left him badly injured. The 13-year-old boy from Greymon Education Center was allegedly beaten by a school administrator over a chapati.
At the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital, we find the 13-year-old boy lying on one of the hospital beds in pain. Scars on his body telling the tales of the violent ordeal that he went through. By his bedside are his parents, still reeling from the shock of the unfathomable punishment.
Huyu mtoto alipigwa na nyinyi wenyewe mnamuona. Sijui kama atarudi mtoto. Ukimwangalia mgongo anakaa kama alikuwa amechomwa.
The minor was reportedly beaten by a school administrator who later instructed his fellow pupils to beat him up, allegedly for taking extra chapatis at dinner.
Maana figo yake moja imeathirika. Sai imesemekana ataanzishiwa dialysis. Ili hali mimi nilipeleka mtoto shule akiwa mzima.
They brought him here with infected wounds, and the blood picture showed he had sepsis with acute kidney injury. So we even attempted to fix a catheter for him, but his genital organs were a bit injured.
The minor's injuries are said to have worsened as the matter was not reported immediately.
So it was a bit difficult until the urologist came and they had to fix a catheter. For now, we are monitoring the urine output for him, and we are giving him antibiotics as we manage the infection.
Waliambiwa kila mtoto apitie viboko viwili. Hao ni watoto wa low class. Alafu sasa nao wa secondary nao wakaingia. Hao wa secondary ndio walimfanyia maneno. Madam alipokuja nikamuuliza, "Madam, what happened to my kids?" Madam wakaniambia, "Hii ni kesi kidogo." Nikamwambia ni sawa. Nikiangalia kesi ile inaitwa ni kidogo, mtoto wangu kusimama kwenyewe hawezi.
Sasa nimetoka police station Kazandani na tuko na Madam OCS ako hapa nje. Anataka kuandika ripoti ya Caleb vile ilifanyika. Najua sheria itachukua mkono.
Authorities at the school are said to have gone into hiding, with the school director Nancy Gashewa saying she only learnt of the incident from the parents. The matter has been reported at Kazandani police station for investigations. Kamchemenza for Lunchtime News.
And a well-wisher has donated 50 computers to Muthiga Girls Secondary School in Kiambu County to enhance e-learning and help students embrace digital learning. Hapal Pania, an educationist, said the initiative is aimed at bridging the technology gap among students as they prepare to face the world currently guided by technology. The school's principal, Cecilia Mim, hailed the donation, saying it will go a long way in improving the competency-based curriculum in the school besides preparing the students for possible opportunities. The matter has been reported at the Kadzani police station for investigations.
Or it's not as if they can, anything comes pre-built into those computers. And the girls, you know, got a lot of the data is educational, word, but there are videos there. There is, you know, there's just sound. So there's a ton of data available to the teacher that he or she can use to distill their lesson.
And with our increased enrollment, we are going to have many of our students accessing the e-learning materials because now we are able to have them. Actually, if you check in our block timetable, we have an e-learning integration lesson for every subject per teacher per week.
Parents in Embu have been asked to play their role diligently. Embu Women Representative Jane Wanjiko, while awarding bursaries worth 2.9 million shillings to 519 needy students from the county, asked parents not to abdicate their responsibilities and assume that teachers in schools will take up the role of molding their children.
Representative Jane Wanjuki said most parents had relaxed in instilling good morals to their children, something that has led many to drop out of school. Wanjuki emphasized that children with good morals will make a society with values, urging students to work hard in school for a better future.
Nidhamu ni sisi wenyewe wazazi tutilie mkazo kwamba watoto wetu wana mienendo yanayofaa kukua kesho wananchi wale watashikilia hii nchi yetu.
She noted that efforts being put by the government to stabilize the education sector will go down the drains if all stakeholders do not play their part.
Hata kama tunafanya hiyo bidii, ningeomba wazazi pia washikilie upande wao kwamba hata kama wanapeleka watoto shule wafuatilie ile mambo inatendeka watoto wakitoka shule.
Beatrice Gatonyangetich, Lunchtime News.
And on that note, we take a quick break, but we'll be back in just a bit.
kwa mipaka na nchi kufungwa. Tusirudi kwa biashara na shule kufungwa. Kwa kutoweza kukutana. Kwa kutengana na tuwapendao. Tusirudi nyuma.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendelee na maisha vizuri.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge,
pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge,
pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendeleze maisha bora kwa ajili ya wapendao, nchi yetu na usoni wetu. Kwa ajili yetu sisi sote. Pata chanjo. Kaa chonjo. Kuhakikisha nchi yetu na uchumi wetu umestawi katika uwazi. Tusirudi nyuma.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
You're being pathetic, Santiago. I don't know why you're so jealous of your brother.
No, Father, I'm not jealous of my brother. If I'm telling you I want her to leave, it's because I have good reasons.
Hey, be careful with what you're about to say.
But the one thing I can't understand is why is everybody so crazy about that crass girl? Even my foolish brother.
Just think that in the long run, if you didn't break up with her, you would have hurt her worse, and you would have hurt yourself as well.
So what if I did? So do you want her to find out what went on between us? She might end up committing suicide.
Oh, come on, why would you do that?
Well, she is intense just like you.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is Lunchtime News. Moving on, the National Council of Churches in Kenya now wants the media to amplify messages that promote peace and cohesion ahead and after the August general election. NCCK further reiterated as stakeholders its commitment in ensuring IEBC conducts credible and transparent elections.
The National Council of Churches in Kenya met at least 50 journalists drawn from across the country at the Limuri's Jumuiya conference to sensitize them on the role of promoting peace and cohesion in the country during the electioneering period. NCCK Programs and Communications Coordinator Henry Jagi said they're partnering with the media to promote peaceful, free and fair elections.
And we have gone through with them about reporting, the guidelines for reporting elections and how to use their voice and our role as media and as agenda setters to promote national cohesion and peace in the country during this electoral period.
The training, which was organized by the Media Council of Kenya, is aimed at equipping journalists with skills to counter issues of hate speech, fact-checking and verification of news, and access to information. Media Council of Kenya Manager of Press Freedom, Safety and Advocacy, Dina Ondari, urged journalists to follow the election coverage guidelines during the electioneering period.
We hope that the skills that we are giving journalists will help them to be able to do fact-checking and verification of news.
Journalists interested in vying for elective posts were asked to step down before engaging in politics.
From that, the number of Samburu students benefiting from local education sponsorship is set to increase following plans by Samburu County government to increase the bursary allocation from 60 million shillings last year to 400 million shillings this year. Samburu County Executive Member in charge of Education, Stephen Lekupe, said the county government is committed to ensuring a good number of students access education with a view of improving their future lives.
It may not be a big amount of money per student, but cumulatively it will support the schools, because a school will be able to get a check at once over 2 million or over 1 million. It's going to do a lot of work to improve the welfare of our schools.
I want to take you to our team that has been following up on the Kenya Kwanza tours that began early from 9 a.m. and we want to catch up with them and see how that is going. I beg your pardon, we're going to take that a little bit later in the bulletin. For now, the National Cohesion and Integrated Commission is now warning that politicians indulging in hate and inciting speeches will not be cleared to vie in the coming general election. The Commission has disclosed that it was working closely with EACC on integrity issues, adding that they are currently investigating 20 cases of incitement and hate speech that involve well-known politicians.
According to the National Cohesion and Integrated Commission NCIC Vice Chairperson Mbuing Nyutu, the Commission has hired personnel who are attending all political meetings and recording politicians involved in hate speech.
We are also working with the DCI to ensure that once the cases are looked at, once investigation by the DCI is complete, we hand it over to the DPP, and the DPP then hands it over to the judiciary. But NCIC is following all these cases to the end. The Chief Justice has set out 4 special courts to hear matters of hate speech and matters of incitement to violence.
Her sentiments were echoed by the business class and the clergy, who took issue with the political class for fueling animosity among the population during campaigns.
We really are concerned about the business continuity, that even as we do elections, as we elect new leaders, as we transition to a new government, that businesses can continue.
When you see a microphone can make or unmake us. Please take time to think through your message. Don't speak when you are bitter.
We want to ask the National Cohesion whether they have enough laws to guide this country against this violence during the election and after elections.
Isufar reporting for Lunchtime News.
All right, it is time now for business, and service providers from technical and vocation institutions are said to be the main beneficiaries of the Economic Partnership Agreement between Kenya and the United Kingdom. The service providers are being trained to equip them with knowledge that will help them fit within the British job market, industrialization, trade and enterprise development. Principal Secretary Johnson Weru says Kenya is drafting a new fiscal policy tailored to the Economic Partnership Agreement with the UK.
In the area of services. So once we agree, negotiate, sign and ratify, a nurse from Kenya, a welder from Kenya, a carpenter, a mason, a plumber, we'll just take a flight, go and do what they have to do and come back. And you can imagine the transformative effect of our TVETs and our rural incomes.
What we want to ensure is that there is enhanced trade in both goods and services between our two countries. We want to expand this across the EAC. We see Kenya as a gateway for growth across the EAC.
And the government and the World Bank have initiated a feed manufacturing venture in 17 high dairy potential counties. The venture is part of a 21 billion shillings National Agriculture and Rural Inclusive Growth Project, which aims at reducing the cost of dairy production and proliferation of adulterated feeds.
Animal feed in the country has been increasing in recent months. On average, a 70-kilo bag of animal feeds retail at an average of 3,000 shillings from the previous average of 1,800 shillings, with the cost of animal feed constituting more than 70% of the total production. The higher animal feed price has been blamed on increased maize prices and a ban on soya export by Zambia, where Kenya sources most of her beans. Farmers are being encouraged to start their own feed formulation to help reduce the cost of production to below 50%.
I've adopted some of these technologies like feeds, the farmers who are doing silage making. They are reporting increased profits.
The challenge has been the feeds. The price of feeds vis-a-vis the kind of the price you get from processors. It doesn't balance.
To train farmers on feed production, the government and the World Bank have started a 14 million shilling feed formulation training in 17 counties.
One of the challenges that we are trying to address is on feeds. So farmers have been trained on-farm feed formulation. They've been also trained on fodder establishment, fodder conservation, and also on silage making.
Kampuni kubwa wako juu zaidi, lakini challenge kubwa kenye kinafanya sasa yetu ilikuwa chini, lakini sasa nayo material imekuwa juu sana. Inatubidi tuongeze kidogo juu tunakuta na hata kukosa inakuwa ni kazi ngumu sana sasa kutafuta.
The venture is expected to reduce the sale of adulterated feeds that are negatively affecting production. Benson Ruba reporting for Lunchtime News.
South Africa's rand firmed on Monday, regaining some ground after weakening last week when the country's central bank signaled a gradual pace of policy tightening and expectations grew for aggressive U.S. rate hikes. Here are the details and other stories making headlines across the continent.
The South African Reserve Bank raised its main lending rate by 25 basis points in a measured move, but its forward guidance was less hawkish than the market had positioned for. Locally, the trade surplus narrowed to 30 billion rand in December from a surplus of 35 billion rand in November. In the equity market, stocks were buoyed by mobile operator MTN Group, tech stocks, and a rise in commodity prices with the Johannesburg All-Share Index. MTN topped the blue chip index, surging 10.11% to 191 rand, a just over 6-year high. Oil rose on Monday as a supply shortage and political tensions in Eastern Europe and the Middle East put prices on track for their biggest monthly gain in almost a year. Meanwhile, Ethiopia's state-owned telecoms operator Ethio Telecom fell 13.6% short of its first half revenue target, with parts of its network hobbled by military conflict in the north of the country. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent troops into the northern Tigray region to fight rebellious Tigrayan forces, and the conflict engulfed two neighboring states during the second half of last year. Ethio Telecom's revenue rose 6.7% to 28 billion in the 6 months to 31st December, falling short of the company's target. Almost 3,500 base transmission stations belonging to the company were damaged during the fighting in the north, rendering them out of service and costing the company 3.67 billion in lost revenue. The war also led to the closure of some of the company's sales outlets in the area. The Ethiopian government is liberalizing the telecom sector, having granted a new operating license to a consortium led by Kenya's Safaricom last year. Finally, Nigeria was unable to meet its oil production allocation by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, in January. The country was only able to pump 1.46 million barrels per day of the expected 1.683 million in January, although it achieved an improvement of 50,000 on its 1.41 million barrels per day production in December 2021. The African continent's biggest oil producer remained far from meeting its target. When the OPEC allocation for the month was deducted from the actual oil produced, Nigeria in January lagged behind by as much as 223,000 barrels in the first month of the year. But oil prices continued to rally yesterday, with a 17% jump in January, the strongest January performance in a long time, as expected global supply struggled to keep up with rebounding demand. On the last trading day of January, Brent crude, Nigeria's benchmark, traded for as high as $91, up by over 1.17%, while the West Texas International crude was up 0.68% at $87.63 as at Monday night.
All right. Housing and Urban Planning Principal Charles Hinga is calling for adoption of hub and spoke models that support flexible working, mitigate environmental impact, and are financially advantageous shared office spaces. This comes in the wake of increased construction of expensive and premium office spaces.
With a lot of work going on with regularizing the port area and around the lakeside, there's a very big potential for industrial developments to take up and become a very big contributor to the real estate market. So it's still positive in our outlook, in our report, and they're definitely going to be driving the key part of the economy.
I would hope about this reimagining that we're going to do together is looking about at all these new urban nodes that are coming up as a result of all the heavy investment in infrastructure.
In terms of infrastructure, a big deal is actually needed to be done there. And government is trying, but we believe more can be done to improve infrastructure, especially in look at water supply, waste management, and of course transport.
Well, if you're looking to invest, the residential area holds promise amid growing demand for smaller housing units. However, stakeholders are for an upgrade in infrastructure to support the growing demand and development, especially in the residential area. I'm Regina Manyara reporting from the Central Business District for KBC Channel 1.
And moving on, youths from Tharaka Nithi County are set to receive technical vocational skills training and thereafter access to funding to create micro, small and medium enterprises from the KCB Foundation over the next 2 years. This comes after KCB Foundation signed an MSME deal worth 16 million shillings with Tharaka Nithi County to train 400 youth in an aim to tackle unemployment. Here are the details of this and more in our corporate roundup.
The partnership deal will see the youth trained in the technical sectors of automotive industry, construction, beauty and personal care, and domestic services through accredited locally based TVETs in the county. Speaking on the partnership, KCB Head of Foundation, Caroline Wanjeri, noted the move is part of the efforts to support the youth navigate the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The program is about creating jobs. It's about job creation. And that is why it's called Tujiajiri. We have youth who have a lot of potential. If given the right technical skills and supported in the right way, including access to credit, they can do wonders to this economy.
Tharaka Nithi County Governor Muthomi Njuki noted that the county is keen in generating sustainable, decent jobs and income-generating activities for its youths and to spur economic development at a grassroots level.
Leo tumesign MOU ama tumetia sahihi MOU ambayo itaruhusu sisi kama Tharaka Nithi County kupatana na KCB. Wale vijana wetu tumenunulia equipment kupitia Youth Empowerment Program. Sasa wanaweza pata pesa kutoka KCB ya kufund hizo biashara.
The program will also provide business incubation and development services for the beneficiaries to ensure these businesses reach stability and maturity stages. Elsewhere, key stakeholders in the tourism and travel industry have agreed to partner in order to resuscitate the sectors adversely affected by the restrictions occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The stakeholders agreed to promote synergies between the government and the private sector to enhance tourism and travel in the country and beyond the borders. During the pandemic in 2020, the sector synergized to create the health and safety protocols that have guided operations in tourism and air travel.
It's not just the UK market we're talking about, because the American market opened up very quickly. And in fact, that's what's kept Kenya going in the last couple of years. And that's partly due to the work we've been doing with Kenya Tourist Board to get the message out that Kenya was open. And if you kept the protocols, which were quite clear, and the same as most countries were doing, in fact, you could come, and people did come. Now that it's all being lifted, and the UK has totally lifted all the tests that you have to do now, there's no more PCR tests or that sort of thing, the British people will come, and the numbers will come back. And now we have to work with KTB to get that message out to them that Kenya's open for business.
Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
Away from that, Jaguar Land Rover lost $12 million in the last 3 months of 2021 amid the global computer chip shortage. The UK car maker saw its retail sales fall 37.6% compared to a year earlier, as it sold 80,126 vehicles during the 3 months. Despite the fall in production, revenue increased 22% to $6.27 billion. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
Manufacturers around the world have been hit hard as they struggle to secure supplies of semiconductors. Other automakers such as Toyota, General Motors, Ford, Nissan, Daimler, BMW and Renault have all been forced to scale down production due to semiconductors shortage. Chips are vital to modern cars, with a number of features including touchscreen controls, automatic emergency brakes, reversing cameras, fuel efficiency equipment and airbag deployment system, all relying on them. Jaguar Land Rover warns that it expects the chip shortage to continue throughout this year, but expects supplies to gradually improve. Jaguar Land Rover says that its order book has hit a new record high of around 155,000 vehicles due to strong demand for the new Range Rover. Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates will impose a federal levy on corporate earnings for the first time next year as it dismantles a tax-free regime that has made it a magnet for the global business but drawn scrutiny over transparency. The measure comes as UAE seeks to align itself with the new international standards, particularly the move toward a global maximum tax on multinational corporations endorsed by the G20 last year. The ambitious plan aims to eventually set 15% as the base levy to stem international competition to offer more attractive rates. Finally, Mexico's economy contracted for a second straight quarter in the last 3-month period of 2021, putting it in a technical recession and joining regional powerhouse Brazil, whose economy fell back into negative territory last year. Mexico's economy shrank in the fourth quarter by 0.1% from the previous 3-month period in a seasonal adjustment terms. Mexico's deputy finance minister says that talk of a technical recession defined as 2 consecutive quarters of contraction does not take into account coronavirus-related economic volatility and global supply chain issues. The deputy minister says global supply chain bottlenecks, increased raw material prices and higher cost of transport are weighing on the economy.
In sports news now, Pierre-Emerick has joined Barcelona on a free transfer after leaving Arsenal before the transfer window closed yesterday. Meanwhile, Tottenham signed Juventus players Dejavan Kulusevski and Rodrigo Bentancur with their record signing Tanguy Ndombele joining